Now, breaking news, Australia and Canada have just announced that they are recognising a Palestinian state. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney says Israel is working methodically to prevent the prospect of a Palestinian state. And British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is also set to make a similar announcement. The declarations come ahead of a formal declaration to be made at the UN General Assembly in New York. Several other Western nations, including France, have announced similar plans as international calls grow for the implementation of a two-state solution. Well, Natasha Butler is standing by in Paris, but first let's go to Sonia Gallego in London outside 10 Downing Street. And Sonia, as we wait to hear Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister's actual words, we had earlier a statement from Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy, who said any decision to recognise a Palestinian state doesn't make a Palestinian state happen overnight. It has to be part of a peace process. Well, there's no inkling whatsoever of a peace process. So the simple question is, what's the point of this and why now?
Well, I don't think it can be underestimated exactly how symbolic this move would be. First and foremost, it is the humanitarian crisis that is central to this decision. If you remember back in July, earlier this summer, Prime Minister Keir Starmer warned that Israel, that unless it agreed to a ceasefire in Gaza, it committed to a long-term peace leading to a two-state solution and also allowed UN access in, it would recognise, the UK would recognise a Palestinian state. Well, of course, that hasn't happened. In fact, things have deteriorated so much that it's a situation which really there has to be some form of united voice against that deteriorating situation as well. The scale of suffering is being deemed as so immense, the tens of thousands of deaths that have occurred, the attacks on infrastructure as well, the situation with the hostages, that has not improved either. But the war, frankly, it's nearly 2 years that this war has been going on in Gaza, and we've only seen an intensification of Israeli military assaults on Gaza as well. With that in mind as well, of course, we had the US President Donald Trump here in the UK just this last week as well. He has also voiced frustration, certainly, with the way that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been dealing with this. And while he said he was against the idea of recognizing a Palestinian state, perhaps the status quo is leading that there is not going to be such a huge diplomatic fallout in relation to this recognition. But make no mistake, this is a huge decision and certainly a seismic one and a sharp break from prior UK foreign policy as regards to the creation of a Palestinian state.
Well, Sonia, let's just bring our viewers up to date. In the last few moments, it is confirmed that British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has announced Britain's recognition of the state of Palestine. It's worth mentioning that, you know, this move comes along with a lot of other countries. France is one of them. We'll talk to Natasha in a moment about that. But 147 other countries have already recognised the state of Palestine, the vast majority of the world. Why has it taken Britain so long?
Well, let's not underestimate also the fact that the UK is a strong ally of Israel as well. It has consistently voiced its allyship of Israel as well. There are also issues, for example, such as trade between the two and also the arms trade as well, and arms licenses that there is between the two countries as well. So that has to be underlined, that this is happening while the UK is declaring itself to be an ally of Israel. But it is also the issues of how the two-state solution has always been there. And the UK has consistently underlined that this needs to be part of a peace process. And it does not recognize Israel as doing anything towards that. In fact, it is worsening that particular situation. It has voiced extreme concern about the continuing of the building of illegal settlements in the West Bank, most notably the E1 settlement as well, with the Israeli government having approved that over the summer as well. With that in mind, the UK sees Israel as not really applying any steps towards the creation of a two-state solution, and with that, no serious steps towards a peace process.
Sonia, political opposition within the country to this move, echoing what the Israelis say, indeed echoing what the US president says, that the timing is not right, that it jeopardizes the safety of captives, that it is a reward for Hamas. You mentioned Donald Trump there. Keir Starmer has to be quite careful now how he exercises the levers at his disposal. OK. We're going to move on now and listen to what Starmer has to say. The British Prime Minister speaking now.
Solution. That means a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable Palestinian state. At the moment, we have neither. Ordinary people, Israeli and Palestinian, deserve to live in peace, to try to rebuild their lives free from violence and suffering. That's what the British people desperately want to see. Yet, almost 2 years after the barbaric attacks of October the 7th, hostages are still held by the terrorists of Hamas. Recent images show the hostages suffering and emaciated. Hamas even refused to release all the bodies of the dead. I have met British families of the hostages. I see the torture that they endure each and every day, pain that strikes deep in people's hearts across Israel and here in the United Kingdom. The hostages must be released immediately, and we will keep fighting to bring them home. Let's be frank. Hamas is a brutal terror organization. Our call for a genuine two-state solution is the exact opposite of their hateful vision. So we are clear. This solution is not a reward for Hamas, because it means Hamas can have no future, no role in government, no role in security. We have already prescribed and sanctioned Hamas, and we will go further. I have directed work to sanction other Hamas figures in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, the man-made humanitarian crisis in Gaza reaches new depths. The Israeli government's relentless and increasing bombardment of Gaza, the offensive of recent weeks, the starvation and devastation are utterly intolerable. Tens of thousands have been killed, including thousands as they tried to collect food and water. This death and destruction horrifies all of us. It must end. We have evacuated the first group of sick and injured children to the United Kingdom to be treated by the NHS, and we continue to increase our humanitarian support. But still, nowhere near enough aid is getting through. We call again on the Israeli government to lift the unacceptable restrictions at the border, stop these cruel tactics, and let the aid surge in. With the actions of Hamas, the Israeli government escalating the conflict, and settlement building being accelerated in the West Bank, the hope of a two-state solution is fading. But we cannot let that light go out. That is why we are building consensus with leaders in the region and beyond around our framework for peace. This is a practical plan to bring people together behind a common vision and a series of steps, including the reform of the Palestinian Authority, that takes us from a ceasefire in Gaza to negotiations on a two-state solution. We will keep driving this forward. As part of this effort, I set out in July the terms upon which we would act in line with our manifesto to recognise Palestinian statehood. That moment has now arrived. So today, to revive the hope of peace and a two-state solution, I state clearly, as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the State of Palestine. We recognised the State of Israel more than 75 years ago as a homeland for the Jewish people. Today, we join over 150 countries who recognise a Palestinian state also. A pledge to the Palestinian and Israeli people that there can be a better future. I know the strength of feeling that this conflict provokes. We have seen it on our streets, in our schools, in conversations we've had with friends and family. It has created division. Some have used it to stoke hatred and fear, but that solves nothing. Not only must we reject hate, we must redouble our efforts to combat hatred in all its forms. We must channel our efforts, united together in hope, behind the peaceful future that we want to see. The release of the hostages, an end to the violence, an end to the suffering, and a shift back towards a two-state solution as the best hope for peace and security for all sides.
Well, that was the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer there announcing his country's recognition of the state of Palestine and joining in doing so the likes of France, Portugal, Canada, Australia, all of whom will be making similar announcements and declarations at the UN General Assembly this week on Monday. Keir Starmer there saying the British people want to see ordinary Israelis and Palestinians living in peace. The humanitarian crisis, he said, is reaching new depths. The ongoing bombardment utterly intolerable. This death and destruction, he said, horrifies all of us. It must end. Ending by, say, the hope of a two-state solution is fading, but we cannot let that light go out. Sonia Gallego is live for us outside number 10 Downing Street in London. And Sonia, the Prime Minister there, setting out a roadmap, essentially, that would lead via a ceasefire and the release of all the captives to an eventual peace process and a two-state solution.
Yes, that's right. He did underline that particular aspect as well. But also, of course, he emphasised how the humanitarian crisis, how it's damaging everything, how it has really gone beyond anything that anyone's seen, really, and how immense that suffering is. With that in mind, there aren't really too many details on exactly how that would occur. But what he did throw to was the fact that Hamas is not going to be part of that solution as well. There are going to be further sanctions on Hamas. They are explicitly ruled out from any role in governance as well. But this is really quite an extraordinary historical moment for the UK, in which it joins those other more than 150 other states which will declare their recognition of a Palestinian state. And of course, that is going to be underlined further at the UN General Assembly this coming week.
Sonia Gallego with the latest there from London for us. Thank you, Sonia.